Us to the conversation of vocational training in the country. Joining me in studio now is Charles Akach. He's the principal, Kabete National Polytechnic, and he has been involved for a very long time on vocational training in the country. Thank you very much for coming. Of course, it will be very prudent of me to start with the launch or official inauguration of this institute. What do you think this would mean for the young people in Siaya?
Maybe, Akisa, before I come to that, I heard from informal sources that you are celebrating your birthday. And I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you and to wish you well.
Thank you very much.
And I will also team up with you to enjoy the celebration.
Thank you.
Now, what the former president of the United States is doing is really a reinforcement or giving a clean bill of health to the government of Kenya, because the government of Kenya has a lot of passion for vocational training. It is important for everybody to know that at the moment, we have 131 technical colleges in this country. And there is a move to have a technical college in every constituency in this nation. Again, there is the intention of the government to have a youth training or a vocational training center in every ward. So it is really telling to the public that there is the need for us as a nation now to embrace what you call TVET in this country more than anything else. Because when you talk about the developed world, Akisa, you realize that they are where they are because of the promotion of technical education.
Yes.
Yeah, what really has been there has been that technical education is for the failures. And I want to say this, that technical education is not for the failures, but we are really trying to train people on competency programs that are industry-driven. Yes.
But I like the last point you've mentioned. For a long time, polytechnics have, there's been a myth that this is for people who did not do well in exam. And over the years, the employment space has been hard for graduates because they are more theory-based than more skill-based.
Yes, what you have been trying to do, you know, you have heard it and it has been said that Kenya and the tiger countries were at par in terms of economy. But what happened was that the government at that time decided to embrace white-collar jobs at the expense of the technical programs. And that is why we have had a big gap between the employed and the unemployed, to the extent that most of our institutions have been training people who are, you call them educated unemployed and educated illiterate. But what the government is doing now is that the government has invested heavily in technical education to the extent that we are having programs which are kind of industry-driven. We have competency-based programs where we work out a curriculum based on the needs of the industry rather than the needs of our institutions. Because we are telling the public that with technical education, you will never be unemployed. That is one. Secondly, there is no retirement in technical education. That is something that people have never known. You look at countries like South Korea, countries like China, countries like Singapore. They embraced this thing. And therefore, we are very happy. In fact, if you look at the agenda of the government, agenda number 1, agenda number 2, agenda number 3 is technical education. And that is why Obama has come here, probably, apart from the homecoming, is to give a clean bill of health to the government, that what the government is doing is giving a direction to the nation.
Let's break it down for the audience, just taking it down to Kogelo.
Yes.
After the inauguration of this particular vocational training research sports center, what does it mean for the young people in that particular region?
What it means for the young people is that, you know, for a long time, we have never invested in talent. And therefore, what Obama is doing is actually what the government is doing now. If you look at the curriculum that is supposed to be rolled out, is giving a lot of emphasis to talent. And this is in tune with the technical education, because what the technical or vocational education is doing is simply to identify the talent and make sure that we promote the talent, because talents are supposed to be identified at a very tender age. You see, what has been happening in our nation is that we have been trying to identify the talent after Form 4. Or probably Standard 8. But what we are now doing, and I think what Obama is doing, and what the government intends to do, is to identify these talents at a very tender age. Because you talk about sports, you talk about even in this particular room, this is TVET, this is vocational training. You see, because you are results-oriented, your results are immediately felt, unlike in other places. And again, what the government has done is that for us, as people who are in the TVET subsector, there is no failure in education. Because what we do is that once somebody has done standard 8 and you are all not able to proceed to secondary and probably college and university, you can still start a program at your level and then proceed with it up to the university and even up to PhD. That is what we are doing. And therefore, it is basically a case of identifying talent at a very tender age.
This is something that worked very well. The polytechnics worked very well in the 90s and the early 2000s, even the 80s.
Yeah.
But you find the dynamics are quite different right now for the Kenyan youth who believe success is working in an office and having a white-collar job. Has this been a problem to try and change the mindset of young people?
This has been a problem because of the negative publicity that many people have given to the technical colleges. I'm looking at it in terms of, because they are into categories. We have what you call vocational training centers, which formerly used to be the youth polytechnics. Then we have the technical training colleges. Then we have, at the national level, we have the national polytechnics, Kabete being one of them. So these institutions are categorized at different stages for purposes of giving students competency-based training at those particular levels. Now, the problem has been that the mindset has not been changing, because many have thought that technical colleges or technical education is basically for failures. And that is the thinking from many people. But we are trying to demystify that kind of thinking. Because at the moment, just Kabete, it has grown, from the last almost 2 years when Kabete was 2,300. Kabete now has 10,000 plus. So we are trying to tell the public that this is the way to go. Because when you look at the training at the university level, where you have the engineers, one engineer requires about 5 to 7 technicians to work. But when you have a gap, so that to the extent that an engineer does not have a technician, then this becomes a very big challenge to our nation. So what we are basically doing is that we have carried out and we continue carrying out baseline survey between our TVET institutions and the industry, so that we can be able to come up with a curriculum which is actually demanded by the industry, rather than having those programs which are not demanded by the industry.
What will this mean in the next 10 years?
Not even in the next 10 years. We are already doing this. It has already been rolled out. Like, we have a program with the Kenya Commercial Bank Foundation. We have programs with the Housing Finance Foundation and other similar organizations, including other private and public sector companies. Yeah, this one is already going on. And we have even short-term programs where we roll out programs in collaboration with the industry for 3 months in-house training, and then another 3 months for attachment. And then after that, KCB advances them some money to start off certain business enterprises. This one we are doing at a very low level, up to the level of a diploma. Yeah, we are doing this.
All right. Thank you very much
yes,
for helping us understand the importance of vocational training and skill-based education in the country. Thank you for coming here on KTN News Desk. Charles Akach is the principal of Kabete National Polytechnic, well-versed with matters to do with vocational training, and of course, one of the champions of the TVET program that is currently being rolled out by the government. I want us to now take a quick break. We still have